So, for some unknown reason, when I said, hey, let's do a debate on the good things and the bad things about Franco, Stu immediately said,
No.
I want to do the pro-Franco stuff. Because I didn't realize this, Stu. You're a big fan of Franco?
No, this is all fraudulent information, and I would like that to be known that Glenn is lying as usual.
Well, that's not what America is hearing right now, but we'll go with that little lie of yours. We looked in, and I wanted to get somebody to debate the other side, like Stu, because, he's pretty thorough. He's a fact-based guy. And so I thought, let's get him because the facts are, I think you'd verify this, the facts are overwhelming in Franco's favor.
I would not verify that, actually, and would feel the opposite, frankly.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe we should start, though, with why. Why would we be debating the positives and negatives of Franco? What would be the purpose of that, and why would that occur in 2024? A week before the Iowa caucuses, why are we talking about Franco, of all people?
Well, Francisco Franco, you might remember him. He was... the head of the Spanish state. He was what you might call a dictator. And a lot of people now, it seems, in America are starting to say, we should have somebody like Franco that just comes in and, stops all this nonsense. And I'm thinking to myself, no, we shouldn't have somebody like Franco. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that are debating this and who are cozying up to the idea of an American Franco are conservatives. And you either don't know who Franco is, or I wouldn't classify you as a conservative. But maybe that's me. Maybe that's just me.
And I, of course, feel the opposite and feel that he was great and did a great job in his
so convincing,
36 years of being a dictator. I think that's an appropriate amount of time.
So you're doing a great job so far. Okay, so here is the thing. Now, the some of the stuff we gathered, polling, for instance, show that he's not so bad to many of the people in Spain, and in Italy, neither was Mussolini. As long as you went along with them. Some of this stuff comes from the Madrid Center for Sociological Research, a government research center, showed that the majority of the Spanish public now acknowledge that Franco did both good and bad things. Now, I'm going to ask for a definition of the word bad because I'm not sure. I mean, the term bad, does that include extermination camps, Stu, or not, do you think?
I typically am of the opinion that they are universally bad extermination camps. Never a good idea.
Okay, but I mean, is that maybe, I don't know, significantly understating the badness of extermination camps or genocide or crimes against humanity?
I consider them suboptimal. Glenn.
Suboptimal. Okay. All right. Well, see, we got the right guy for, the debate Franco side. Okay. So would you like to start or should I start?
You go ahead, Glenn.
I go ahead.
You've got that really tough task to make Franco look bad. So I'm going to give you all the lead up you need.
Okay. So now both sides of the debate, both good and bad Franco, they will admit that he committed massive atrocities during the Spanish Civil War. His nationalists raped Republican women and shaved their heads. They rounded up 500,000 people and put them in 60 concentration camps. Large portion of these prisoners did forced labor or made to fight in Franco's army. And then, he executed another 100,000 people during the war. So right off there, I don't think I'm on the Franco train.
Really?
Yeah.
The train is an interesting
I thought
use
so.
there. But I will attempt my best here, but Franco did, at least when you're thinking of the Spanish people, or at least half of them, specifically, he did keep them out of World War II by kind of remaining neutral.
Right.
Now, some might note that you didn't get invaded, and you were less likely to be invaded by Hitler when you did things that Hitler didn't mind all that much, which is not, necessarily a positive. But I'm telling you it's a positive that, hey, he remained neutral in World War II and didn't get invaded.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. But he was busy there for a while in his own civil war. And the public affairs officer for Franco's forces told an American reporter, quote, "You know what's wrong with Spain? Modern plumbing. In healthier times, spiritually healthier, you understand, the plague and pestilence, they could be counted on to thin the Spanish masses. Now with modern sewage disposal, people just multiply too fast. And the masses are no better than animals, you understand. You can't expect them not to become infected with the virus of Bolshevism. After all, rats and lice carry the plague." So he had a really good understanding of a servant to the people,
Sure. Well, you could say that. However, we've all become so indoorsy these days. I mean, when it's 32 degrees, we don't even go out to outhouses anymore. The outdoor plumbing was a better approach.
Was it?
Yes, much better. Yes, and I think we should go back to that.
So get rid of modernity like toilets.
Yeah, modernity. That's an interesting word. I feel like we've used that with some Russian figures over the past few years that they are saying get rid of modernity as well.
And some Christian nationalists too. So,
well, what you're not talking about, of course, is the fact that foreign investment was encouraged and tourism was promoted. And by 1962, per capita income for the nation's 33 million people reached $300 per year.
Holy cow. Holy cow.
So, I mean, I noticed you didn't point that out because imagine how high it would have went if we could still go to outhouses. Probably could have doubled that number.
Well, let me just, I hate to throw a monkey wrench into the deal, but I wasn't really concentrating on the tourism because after the war, Franco was responsible for the torture, murder, and covert burial of an additional 114,000 Spanish citizens. He just targeted people, Republican loyalists, atheists, Jews, intellectuals, liberals, academics, Protestants. I mean, but you can see the Protestants. I mean, anarchists, Freemasons, socialists, Catalan and Basque nationalists, communists, homosexuals, and trade unionists. And they opened up mass graves all around Spain, and relatives, couldn't mark the grave or anything else. They just dumped them in and just covered them with dirt. So,
well, say what you want, but we wouldn't have this Basque nationalist problem if it wasn't for all this indoor plumbing. And and I think Franco nailed that, by the way.
Right.
But you did mention an interesting word there, communist. You see, he was an anti-communist. He was an anti-socialist. He opposed a lot of the things that we oppose today, which somehow is supposed to be a reason enough to love the guy. And that's why I'm making this positive argument for Franco.
So wait.
But he did oppose communists. It's true. He did oppose socialists. Of course, I don't want to point out some of the other figures in Europe at the time who also hit that standard and maybe are not thought of so positively.
Wow, it sounds like you're not convinced he's a good guy.
What? No, I just told you he's against communists.
Let me see if I can flip Stu on this one. The children from Republican families were taken, and they weren't killed. They were just abducted, renamed, and given to supporters of the Franco regime. An estimated 300,000 babies were also stolen from hospitals and undesirable parents, and then they were sold to approved families. So,
have you heard any of the dumb names parents are naming kids these days? They should be captured and renamed. That's the only way we could save our society today. Yes, and Franco is one of the few people who knew that. And I'll tell you this, Glenn, he did promote strong Spanish national identity and culture. And this seems to be honestly what people...
kidnapping babies.
Seems to be... Yeah, sure. And opposing indoor plumbing. But it seems to be what people do like, just like me, who's arguing the pro-Franco side, is that he did have he had a nationalist streak, which has some equivalent here in the modern movement on the right. And also he did he did love Spanish culture, and he did not like people undercutting that. And so he used the centralized power of the state that he held for 36 years.
Right.
He used that power to enforce some things that maybe you might like. And if he did that, shouldn't we just embrace it?
But wait, beyond having martial law for 10 years, while he was, of course, busy talking about how great Spain was, he was also dumping bodies in a massive grave. He was stealing babies and taking children, killing their parents, and then taking the children and adopting them into pro-Franco families. So I think that makes me, as a nationalist, it would make me love Spain maybe a little less.
Well, I mean, that's if you had a good name, then maybe you'd change your opinion once the government assigned you your new name, which was much, much better than your old name. Okay. I will say, though, Glenn, once he aged, see, here's the thing. People look at this and say, look, did Franco do some bad things? Sure, some people will say that. But they will also note that it was a trying time, a difficult period after the war, and the country was collapsing. He needed to act in that way. And once he aged, he did really release and relax some of those rules. Police beating people over the head for no apparent reason declined by 13% or something. And he did allow some free market reforms. Now, some would point out, hey, maybe you just put the free market reforms in because they're good. You don't just wait for 30 years of a dictatorship before you do some of those things. But hey, later on in life, he aged and he calmed a little bit, and isn't that wonderful?
Well, still didn't allow any freedom of the press, but also employment. If you were unemployed, you could get a job if you were a Franco supporter, but people were required to get a certificate of good behavior from local officials so you could get a job, which kind of sounds like what we don't want to happen here.
Well, I mean, some would say that. There's certain people out there who would make claims.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to, I think while you're making very good points, I think I'm just going to leave it at this. Only Cambodia, known for the killing fields, only Cambodia has more mass graves and anonymous victims than Franco's Spain. So
anonymous victims because they rejected their new names.
Right. Thank you. Well, Stu, I thought you made a lot of good points on Franco because there's a lot of them out there, as you well know.
Well, I'm a passionate supporter, apparently, of Franco. So
yeah. I noticed you almost slipped there and said Hitler.
No, I didn't, but I know what you mean. There's too many similarities there to be ignored. I don't look. We had a lot right, I think, in this country, and I feel like we're at the point where we want to throw a lot of the things that we did correctly out the window because we perceive this as a period of things not going our way. That's not a good, there's a reason why we've been a country that's been this powerful for a long time. And those principles are the ones that got us here. And it just feels like if we were to go back and embrace them a little bit, maybe we wouldn't need to have a 40-year dictatorship.
I don't know. Those can be fun. For the dictators, usually. What's happening to us right now, and the reason why Franco, people are starting to say, we need maybe a nationalist and a religious dictator. No, we don't. We need one as much as Iran needs one. Wait a minute, they already have one. Oh, I'm sorry. So some other country other than Iran. We don't need that. We shouldn't want that. That's a very grave danger to anyone and everyone, because that's a dictatorship that just can eliminate those who they deem problems. I don't want that on the left. I don't want that on the right. I don't want it here, there, or anywhere, Sam I am. The reason why this is happening is because things are becoming uncontrollable. The government has gone so far awry that people believe that only an unconstitutional dictator can save the country. And that's not true. All you have to do is return to the Constitution. If you return to the Constitution, all of it comes back. Now, you can't give everybody the freedom that they think they have now, like I have the right to go in and loot stores. No, that won't stop until you start enforcing the local laws and the laws of the Constitution. Once you do that, we fix ourselves. People are overthinking all of this stuff. I mean, you're going to need a very, very unpopular president or a president during a war. That's why everybody wants a war so much. That is able to do things under a War Powers Act, which is terrifying to me. I would much rather have a president come in and just say, I'm a one-term president, but I am going to put everything on the table, and I'm going to get rid of this huge administrative state. It's gone. I don't want it. It's not constitutional. Once you get past some of those things, it's amazing how you fix your town, you fix your state, you fix your country. I don't understand why, especially conservatives, are talking about Francisco Franco. He was an evil dictator that didn't do some bad. He committed atrocities. And every dictator commits atrocities because they force people into compliance. That is not America.